This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the Sig Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum Microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
All right, guys, let's get started today. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now. It's garbage day here at the ranch. Welcome inside the Sig Sauer Studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day on this national radio broadcast, heard on dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of radio stations across the country. Great to have you with us today. Patriot Mobile, Mike is fired up for you. X Insurance presenting it all. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing, my brother?
Not too bad. Here we are. It's Wednesday, top of the hill.
Top of the hill, baby. You can start us off by, we have a lot of stuff going on today in 2A news. So we'll get started with that and get as much of it as we can. Some that broke yesterday while we were on air and after we were on air. We didn't get to it, but we will today. That's why we're on every single day. Greg, if you could tell people where to watch the program and participate in the chat and all that fun stuff on social media, we'll get cracking.
Sure, if you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters on YouTube and Rumble. Over on X, it's at AAR Mark. To join the live chat, just download the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, you can do that over on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio as well, Facebook.com. Participate in that chat. Lots of you are doing that. Thanks for that. We appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you don't, so you never miss one of the live national radio broadcasts. Let's go to our guest, Dr. John Lott, crimeresearch.org. John, how are you today? Thank you for being here on a weekday, on a Wednesday at the ranch. Appreciate it.
It's great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm going to start off by playing a piece from NBC News, of all people, last night, announcing what's happening with this 2A task force. Then I want to cover I want to go through the memo and then start that discussion with you. Let's take a listen to this. This is from NBC News last night.
Breaking news just coming into us now. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has announced in just the last hour or so the creation of what she calls a Second Amendment task force. It was announced in a memo that was sent to DOJ employees and obtained by NBC News. Now, in the memo, the AG is writing in part, for too long, the Second Amendment, which establishes the fundamental right to bear arms, has been treated as a second-class right. No more, she says. Let's get now to NBC's Danny Ceballos, our legal analyst. Danny, what sort of legal action could a task force like this take in regards to gun laws in individual states around the country?
Well, this sounds like it's going to examine, once formed, it's going to examine ways to implement the previous executive order that Trump issued on firearms. And that is a multi-part executive order that directs DOJ to investigate different ways to really expand on Second Amendment rights and prepare a report within a certain number of days from the Attorney General and the Associate Attorney General to the President. So this is just an additional task force to sort of carry out the mission of that original executive order.
Let's underscore that. The bottom line here is that this administration is interested in expanding the Second Amendment rights in states that may have restricted it, right?
That's exactly right. And especially in light of the Supreme Court's recent gun cases, whether it be Bruen or Heller, the executive order also signals the administration's interest in expanding this kind of Second Amendment right, or to go after any states or localities that they perceive as unlawfully infringing on that Second Amendment right, that the way they see it, as an expanded right, as something that it needs a task force in order to implement this executive order.
All right, guys. So an interesting report, John, from NBC News. Fairly fair. I'll put it that way, from NBC News. It was kind of middle of the road. I noticed a couple things that I took away from that, expanding 2A rights and as the way they see it, et cetera. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, this is just more showing how dramatically different the Trump administration is than Biden. I mean, under Biden, you had, this so-called zero tolerance policy where they were putting literally thousands of firearms dealers out of business for trivial, tiny paperwork typos. They had things like the reviving Operation Choke Point from the Obama administration that made it so that financial companies wouldn't go and deal with people in industries that they didn't like, from oil and coal to firearms. So what they're trying to do is implement Trump's executive order, which is a huge task for them to go and have to do. So setting up this group here is important. I mean, just Trump gave them 30 days, but as you and I have talked about before, just going and identifying all the laws, all the regulations, all the treaties that impact and make it more difficult for people to go and own guns for self-defense. I mean, that seems like an amazingly tall order to go and fill within 30 days, let alone actually implementing all those things. And so this is just part of making sure that they can, after they've identified those things, that they can actually get to work in changing them.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people on our side of the fence here are wondering, when's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? Man hasn't been in office 4 months yet.
So much to do.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
So much to do.
Hold on to that. I want to get into that. Go ahead.
I mean, they have so much to do, and they're fighting a bureaucracy. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I worked in the first Trump administration, and it's amazing he was able to accomplish almost anything. I mean, at that time, not only was he battling the civil service of something like the Department of Justice, but he was battling the political appointees because there were Bush people there. Now, at least this time, he's putting in good political appointees. But, you just saw a case a couple days ago dealing with illegal immigrants where they had deported this guy from Maryland who an immigration judge had earlier identified the individual as being, not only an illegal alien, but a criminal involved with gangs. And you had a lawyer from the Department of Justice basically tubing the case, saying he couldn't really think of any justifiable reason why they would deport the guy. And so they had to fire him. But you have this type of insubordination for all these leftist lawyers who are at the Department of Justice. I understood that after Trump gave the executive order on the Second Amendment, and they asked different lawyers to go through and identify the different regulations and laws and treaties that were, affected by Trump's executive order. You had people, staff lawyers, who basically were dragging their feet and making it hard for them to go and accomplish things. You've had other things that have happened with, the Jeffrey Epstein files that are there. The first ones that were given to them were not very much. They only gave a tiny fraction of the files that were there, and they had to fire or I guess remove, in any case, the FBI head for the Southern District of New York, because he was essentially stonewalling giving that information to Main Justice. So, I mean, you see these, and there's people that they had to get rid of at the ATF who were just refusing to kind of get with the program on that. You've had years where people on the left have been promoted based upon their political views. You may remember a few years ago when you had these FBI agents kneeling for Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Some of them kneeled, some of them didn't. The ones who kneeled ended up getting promotions. The ones that refused to kneel ended up getting sent out to some satellite office, way away from Washington, D.C., for the FBI.
Suffice to say, I know we're going to be told we're going to take a break here in a second, but it's an immense task. This task force is going to have an incredible job to do, and just responding to Trump's order within that 30 days. Obviously, that's why Bondi looked for an extension. Frankly, I'm surprised it wasn't even longer than it was, because you know the Department of Justice intimately because you were there. You understand how it works. Guys, I know, as I said, we're going to take a break, so I don't want to get too far into this right now. But when we do come back from the break in about, just on the flip side, we're going to take a break in about 30 seconds. But I want to read you one page of the intro of the Office of Attorney General Washington, D.C. memo from Pam Bondi on the subject of Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force. So when we come back, we'll read that. We'll talk a little bit about it with John. And he also mentioned ATF. There's some big changes going on over there as well. Kash Patel. All of this broke while we were off air or on air or later in the evening yesterday and early today. There's a lot happening. We'll get to as much of it as we can. You are on the Armed American Radio Network. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day, Monday through Friday, here in the 6 Hour Studios on this Patriot Mobile microphone. It's all brought to you by X Insurance. We'll be back with Dr. Lott. 3 more segments to go. Don't go away.
following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. Mark Walters filling you a prescription for freedom here in the 6 Hour Studios. If you're watching, I'm holding up a Patriot Mobile phone. And it's interesting because you note up there, you won't be able to see it, but it's got a Verizon tower on here right now. And that will move as you travel around, depending on where you go. It picks up all those towers. Very powerful service over there. patriotmobile.com/AAR/AAR. Activate a phone or all of your phones. Open a new line, whatever you want to do over there at Patriot Mobile. They make it simple. It's really easy. It's really quick to do. It was for me. And you will have a Patriot Mobile phone as well, and you'll give your money to a company that supports your rights and your freedoms in these discussions. You hear them here on the broadcast. They are the real deal. You can find them and all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com. And, of course, we're in front of the Patriot Mobile mic on the weekday show. It's all brought to us by X Insurance. John Lott, welcome back, my friend. Let me read part of this memo from Bondi, and we'll kind of dissect a little bit of this. And Reuters covered it fairly fair as well. I was quite surprised. This is the memorandum for all department employees. This went to the DOJ employees, ladies and gentlemen, from the AG, Pam Bondi, and the subject was Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force. For too long, the Second Amendment, which establishes the fundamental individual right of Americans to keep and bear arms, has been treated as a second-class right. No more. It is the policy of this Department of Justice to use its full might to protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. President Trump has made protecting the Second Amendment rights a priority for this administration. As he explained, the Second Amendment is an indispensable safeguard of security and liberty because, quoting, it is foundational to maintaining all other rights held by Americans. Executive Order 14206, protecting Second Amendment rights. To that end, President Trump has directed me to propose a plan of action designed to, quote unquote, protect the Second Amendment rights of all Americans. As one element of a comprehensive plan of action that I am proposing to the President, I am hereby creating a Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force. This task force will continue the department's ongoing work to implement Executive Order 14206 and protect the fundamental rights secured by the Second Amendment. The task force is principally charged with developing and executing strategies to use litigation and policy to advance, protect, and promote compliance with the Second Amendment. Now, Bondi goes on to say, quoting from her, I will serve as the chair of the task force, and the Associate Attorney General will serve as the vice chair. The task force will be further composed of representatives from my personal staff, the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, the Office of the Associate Attorney General, the Office of the Solicitor General, the Civil Division, the Civil Rights Division, the Criminal Division, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and any other components or representatives that I may, from time to time, designate to assist in the task force's labors. John, this is a pretty powerful statement from Bondi. It should assuage some fears people had of her because of her history in Florida, post-Parkland, etc. This is a monumental task. You think, let me just ask you this. What do you think about what she wrote?
Well, I think it couldn't be stronger. I mean, obviously, it's an important task force. With her and the Associate Attorney General, the two top people in the Department of Justice, serving on the task force there, it's something that's going to get serious muscle there in the Department of Justice. But, you know, she's done lots of things already, you know, concentrating on, you know, violent crimes as opposed to somebody making some trivial violation with regard to a regulation with regard to guns. She's restoring people's gun rights. You know, Mel Gibson is just one example of that. Taking those decisions away from the ATF and moving them into her office in the Department of Justice. You know, those are just a couple of the major changes that they're doing there. It takes a little bit of time to go and undo the regulations that were imposed during the Biden administration. There's a process that you have to go through in terms of asking for public comment and what have you. But they've obviously started this, and they don't have a full complement. There are a lot of people in the Department of Justice. I don't think that, for example, the Solicitor General, who's going to be overseeing the court cases, is yet to be confirmed by the Senate. So that makes it hard for them to get as much done as they want to. But they're obviously, and they're still hiring lots of other people there. So they don't have a full staff yet, but they're moving forward. And, it's not like this is the only thing on their agenda. She's been very active in terms of the illegal immigrants. But, on guns, she's done things like going after California for not issuing concealed carry permits. That's really a major change, imposing legal costs on those jurisdictions which are refusing to, allow people their right to self-defense. So, it's hard to think of what more it would be possible to go and do in the short period of time. But it's very clear that this task force will have heavy weight and will be able to accomplish a lot that simply because of who she's placing on the task force.
John, let's talk about the courts for just a second, because she mentions that specifically and cases. And if you go back to that NBC report that I played, one of the questions from the NBC anchor, forgive me for not remembering who he is. I don't spend a lot of time watching NBC, but nonetheless was talking about, going after the states that have not complied with the Second Amendment, or that have restricted Second Amendment rights is a better way to put it. That's the way he put it. How do you think, what do you think will happen here? Are we going to get a barrage of cases heading to the Supreme Court if she goes that route, which it sounds like she's going to do? Is the Supreme Court going to be looking at just a whole cornucopia of, grants or, seeking cert up there? Because they're going to appeal this. New York, California, they're going to fight tooth and nail against the Attorney General. There's reports out now that Bloomberg is spending $10 million to hire state AGs to do just that. So this is not going to happen overnight.
In Virginia and other states next year. Look, there's a lot that needs to be done, but these are important cases. One of the problems is that you don't have a Solicitor General in yet. There's the Solicitor General from Missouri has been nominated by Trump, and he's working his way through the Senate. But, you're not going to be able to have a real roadmap set out yet for the Department of Justice and the Supreme Court until you get him confirmed. And basically, Democrats are doing whatever they can in order to kind of slow down the process of getting various people confirmed.
30.
So, but I assume in the next couple of weeks he'll be confirmed, and you'll move forward on these things. One of the big problems that you have in getting cases to the Supreme Court is that the states that are adopting the strict gun control laws that you want to challenge are in circuits that the Democrats control.
All right, John, stop right there, because we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. I want to go that when we come back with you. That's important information, ladies and gentlemen. This has been quite a day. It's been quite a month when you look back at some of the things we've been talking about. We felt like things were moving slow, but if you look back in hindsight, ladies and gentlemen, they've been moving at a pretty rapid pace. We'll be right back. 2 more segments to go with Dr. John Lott. More to cover.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Yeah, Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to hear a new spot in the next break regarding the Daniel Defense H9 pistol. Make sure to give that some eyes, okay? You can visit DanielDefense.com. Check that out. I've had that gun in my hand. As I've mentioned before, I've not yet fired it. I am looking forward to firing it. It fits. It's a Daniel Defense. What can I tell you? It's a Daniel Defense quality in a pistol, the H9. Make sure to check out DanielDefense.com, DanielDefense.com. Make sure to visit all of our great partners. You can find them all at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. We'll talk about a few more of them when we come back from the next break. Dr. John Lott, welcome back in, my friend. So you were talking about the circuit courts, and many of them are, and I'll let you take it from there.
Well, the problem that you face is that the Supreme Court takes cases when there's splits between the circuits. And the problem that you face is that the states that the Democrats control, where they're passing these gun control laws, are in circuits that the Democrats control. And so you're not getting the splits there on things like assault weapons bans and what have you. You'd have to have, a state like Texas pass an assault weapons ban and have the Fifth Circuit, which is strongly controlled by Republicans, by far the most strongly controlled circuit by Republicans, strike it down in order to have a split between the circuits. Now, there are ways around that. One of the things that the Biden administration did and can be done is to go and have the Department of Justice, once we get a Solicitor General in there, go and ask that say this is an important case for the Department of Justice and ask the Supreme Court to grant cert on it. And my guess is usually the Supreme Court, if the Department of Justice specifically asks them to review a particular case, they will do so. Now, the problem is that you're going to have to wait for a Solicitor General to get in there before they'll start doing things like that. The Solicitor General from Missouri is a very good guy. I met him this last August, and I think he'll be a strong proponent of people's ability to defend themselves and others. And so, but it's just going to have to wait. These things takes time just until you get all your people in there into office, and he's not there yet.
And it's not just people in there, but it's also some people out, as you were talking about before in a previous couple segments. How deep does this career bureaucrat problem go in the DOJ with attorneys? I mean, it's just not going to be something that happens overnight. Are we going to have to get cases moving along before we find out? Or the DOJ, or in this case in particular, Pam Bondi says, no, I don't want that person in there. I want them out as these things begin to move. Well, I mean, that seems like just an absolutely monumental task with so many career people there.
Right.
Is there an easier way to weed them out?
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
You have lots of protection for civil servants. I know you'll be surprised to hear this, but government workers, a lot of them don't work very hard.
That's
and
really?
And they don't necessarily do a great job to begin with. And obviously you have some good people there. But I've worked in the federal government twice, back in the 80s and then during the Trump administration. And, government's a weird thing. And that is once you get a job in the government and you're past the probationary period, which is a year, you basically, unless you go out and commit a crime or something, in the past, obviously the Trump's trying to change this, you got a job for life. And not only do you have a job for life, but your salary goes up for each year that you're there. They have these, what they call steps. And each year that you're there, you get moved up another step virtually automatically. And they increase everybody's salaries in the government, for inflation. So you get a real wage every year. You just have to put in the time. And, can you imagine, private companies having workers who you can't fire,
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
whose salaries go up, whether they do a good job or a bad job. And so, but worse than all that is that the type of people who work for the government are the type of people who think that what the government does is good. And even if you didn't, I mean, when I worked at the Sentencing Commission, I suppose when I first got there, and others first got there, a lot of people thought that the commission was unconstitutional. But when the Supreme Court ruled on it, even though Scalia wrote a very strong dissent, the Supreme Court said that it was. But yet a lot of people, people come to believe that their job is important, that they're doing the right stuff there. And so, but basically the types of people who are overwhelmingly working within the federal government are liberal Democrats. And they think that they're doing God's work. And so, you have two issues. One, getting people to work hard. And secondly, getting them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and you're the one with the plan that gives them the right direction. I mean, it would be nice to think in a perfect unicorn world, it would be nice to think that someone would be doing the bidding of whatever they're told to do. If Bondi says you are to support this is what we do at the DOJ, it would be nice to believe that those people would argue on the government's behalf. But let's face facts. You can't take the bias out of human beings. We find that in the judiciary all the time. I mean, all you got to do is look at a 5-4 split or a 6-3 split on the Supreme Court, depending on which way Amy Coney Barrett wants to go at this stage of the game. But you already know how three of those, you know how Kagan, you know how Sotomayor are going to vote with Jackson, Brown, I call her. You know if it's a gun case, they're going to rule against before the case is even heard, likely. And when you could begin to bring that down to the surface, it's terrible.
Right. I would defend Amy Coney Barrett more than I think a lot of people would. I think the thing you have to understand about her, even in this kind of most recent decision where it was with regard to deporting this illegal alien, she kind of comes from an academic background. She likes to go and take the time to kind of develop the record and think about things for a couple months. And if you give her the time on those things, I think she virtually always comes to the right decision on this. What you're going to find is that in decisions where, they're kind of jumping the normal line, and for good reason, because these district court judges are just crazy. When you read her kind of dissents, it's more she doesn't agree with the other leftists in this last case on much, but what she basically does agree is that more consideration needs to be done on these things. So I don't, would I have liked it if she went with the other five? Yeah, sure, that would have been great. But there's so many decisions that she's gone with the other ones on things like the Bruen decision, for example, and the Wade and other things that conservatives would like, appreciated. There's lots of ones, what do you call it when the Chevron doctrine, knocking that down. Those were really important decisions that have far-reaching impacts. The Chevron one, not giving such deference to regulatory agencies like the ATF,
huge.
Is an important decision.
Yeah, hold on to that. When we come back, we're going to talk to the ATF. That's about the ATF. That's a perfect spot to call it as we go to the break. John Lott will be here for one more segment. We're going to flip over to the ATF now. Some big stuff going on over there. Could they be out the door? We're going to talk about it with John. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Now, back to the show. Welcome back inside the 6 Hour Studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day, Monday through Friday in the 6 Hour Studios on the Patriot Mobile Mic, all brought to you by the Great X Insurance. Make sure to check out all of our partners. I mentioned a few more when we came back from the break. AmmoSquared.com. I got my You Got Ammo memo today. I love getting that on Wednesdays as I just watch the ammo stack up every single week at AmmoSquared.com. They keep it for me in a climate-controlled warehouse. If I want it, they ship it. If I don't, they keep it. If I don't want it, they'll give me my money back. It's entirely up to me. I can swap calibers whenever I want to, and it works great for all my guns, including my Car Arms, North American Arms, Daniel Defense guns. I've got them all fed over there, and SIGs, of course. Got them all being fed. Stacking anyway. I'll feed them whenever I want with the Ammo Squared ammo whenever I need it. AmmoSquared.com, AmmoSquared.com. Make sure to check out Defender Coffee. Support the Second Amendment with every sip of coffee because they donate to a Second Amendment rights group of your choice. In addition to that, well, they're all there at ArmedAmericanRadio.com, including Heaven's Harvest for your emergency food supplies and all that fun stuff. Make sure to check them out. ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Dr. Lott, welcome back. We have you for one more segment. I do want to read a couple quotes from Alan Gottlieb regarding the Bondi memo before we go over to the ATF. This is what Alan Gottlieb had to say in a press release earlier this afternoon regarding the Bondi's memo of the Second Amendment Task Force. Alan is quoted as, "This is the news we've been waiting for. From the wording of Attorney General Bondi's memo, it looks like gloves off time may have finally arrived. It marks a significant and welcome change at the Department of Justice because it is clear we now have leadership in place which treats gun owners as allies instead of antagonists. Almost immediately after the 2021 inauguration, the Biden administration, without cause or provocation, declared war on American gun owners and the Second Amendment. And that war is still being waged by far-left Democrats in several states where passing the most egregious restrictions on Second Amendment rights appears to be a contest to see who can become more extreme." And he's right about that. The task force is principally charged with developing and executing strategies to use litigation and policy to advance, protect, and promote compliance with the Second Amendment. We're hoping this bold step by Attorney General Bondi brings an end to years of harassment and penalization of gun owners and begins the process of dismantling unconstitutional laws and regulations at the federal, state, and local levels of government. And John, bold statements from Bondi, great statements and comments from Alan Gottlieb. This is going to be a really fun 3.5 more years, almost 4 years, to watch this unfold and hopefully fix some of these issues in government to a point that we never have to go back to where we were with the Biden administration. I'll let you comment on Alan's comments, and then we'll take it over to the FBI and ATF, Kash Patel.
Well, things would have been completely different if Harris had won. You would have risked not only do the Democrats already control the district and circuit court in the country, but they would have a good chance of flipping the Supreme Court after 4 years. And, Katie bar the door then at that point.
Yeah.
What Trump is doing is he's keeping his promises, and he's doing it in style, and he's moving quickly on a range of issues. There's no other president in my lifetime who has been as strong a supporter of people's rights to self-defense. Even during his first term, name me one president that would have spoken out regularly on the dangers of gun-free zones.
Yeah.
I know no one who would do that type of thing. George W. Bush was supporting renewing the assault weapons ban.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, Congress wasn't going to pass him a bill like that. But if they had, he would have signed it. You look at a lot of these decisions, and, there's some wishy-washy Republican judges. Roberts is a Bush appointee, but for the circuit and district court judges in the country, if there's a bad decision and Republicans on it, it's very likely one of his judges that are there. Trump's done a much better job than any other president in my lifetime in terms of, if you care about, at least for those who care about the Bill of Rights, for protecting the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, he has.
You know, all the amendments that are there. And so it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but, you know, he's done an incredibly good job. And, you know, compared to what the alternative is, it couldn't be more stark.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, you know, as I said, when you look in hindsight, he is moving quickly on this, and you're absolutely correct. I can think of no one in my lifetime ever. He clearly has matured, particularly on this issue, and I think what happened in Butler, PA, had a hand in that as well. Let's flip over to ATF right now. Reuters this morning popped up, or this afternoon. FBI Director Kash Patel was removed as the acting director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and replaced by U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll. 7 people familiar with the matter said on Wednesday. He will continue to serve, Driscoll, as Army Secretary while he oversees the ATF. John, could this be the beginning of the end of the ATF? Because they're now looking at rules. Kash is looking at getting rid of some of the ATF rules. I sure would love to see the Ghost Gun one be overturned, make that decision, the recent the recent Ghost Gun, Vanderstock. Make that moot. Could this be the beginning of the end of the ATF as we know it? You got about a minute and a half. Take it away.
Well, I mean, I don't know this guy who's taking over as acting director.
Nor do I.
Obviously, Kash has been extremely good on this. I would hope that this guy will follow, and I assume he must be, or they wouldn't put him in charge of ATF. There was a limit of 200 and some days, maybe like 210 days, that somebody can be acting director for ATF. So, you know, at least, so there was a window that Kash could do it anyway. So, you know, I believe the 210-day window kind of starts over again with the new person there. And, you know, hopefully he's going to be, you know, even if he's, you know, half as good as Kash, he'd still be a great guy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this happened pretty quick. In fact, I haven't gone back to it yet since airtime, but his photo was still up as acting director on the ATF website. I don't know how that all went down, ladies and gentlemen, but it has been confirmed by the DOJ, at least according to Reuters. And it does say here the abrupt change in leadership comes at a time when senior Justice Department officials are weighing whether to merge the ATF with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration as part of an effort to cut costs. So, John, it looks like the ATF we all hated and knew it that way. There's some profound changes coming down the pike. Dr. Lott, thank you for being here. I appreciate it very much for you jumping in on a Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, you can help John at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org. That's the Crime Prevention Research Center over there. You can read all of John's incredible research, all of his op-eds, all of his letters to editors. It's all published for you. Just an incredible wealth of information, and he needs your help to keep it alive. Please support crimeresearch.org. You can toss $5, $50, whatever you can. I know it's tough out there right now, but we've all got to keep it up. We've all got to scratch each other's backs. That's the way it works. Support our partners. Thank you for supporting Armed American Radio. I love each and every one of you. And Dr. Lott, thanks again for being here. crimeresearch.org. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow on a Thursday, one day closer to the weekend for you. And remember, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. No self-respecting caveman would have ever been caught outside his cave without his club. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Enjoy your day and stay safe. All right, guys, thanks for jumping in here with us today. I appreciate it very much. Always fun to get John on. He's extremely busy, and I really appreciate him jumping on a Wednesday. It was a big news day today. with all this stuff. And there's more going on too. We just can't get to all of it in 1 hour. But please like and share the posts wherever you watch the program on social media. Follow us on all of those platforms. And please subscribe to Armed American Radio and Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. One subscription there on your favorite podcast platform. When you subscribe, get you all 6 shows every single day of the week. Thanks for being here today. Stay safe. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you on the radio tomorrow, guys.